Were you ever that 1 in 1 million? If so, what's your story? I had 8 wisdom teeth. The dentist had never seen anything like it and called the whole office in to marvel at my teeth. I was struck by lightning while talking on a landline. This was in the early 90s. Lightning struck the telephone line and traveled through the handset to my ear. My parents drove me to the ER. I couldn't talk very well. My brain knew what I wanted to say, but my mouth didn't want to say it. I had a terrible stutter. The doctor told me that I had a dose of good old-fashioned electroshock therapy. My speech was normal the next day, but I get a terrible headache whenever a thunderstorm comes through. I slept wrong one night and pinched a nerve in my neck so severely I lost the right side of my body. It just went silent like it wasn't there for months. I woke up in the worst pain I've ever experienced and couldn't talk, move, or do anything. The ER doctor thought I was having a stroke. My doctor had never seen a case as severe as mine, and it was purely a freak accident. Recovery took months, but I have use of my leg and hand again, with some numbness. Other than pain and spasms, I'm mostly back to normal. I have completely unexplained hearing loss in my left ear. I had a cyst in it when I was 6, and the surgery to remove it and fix the ear was successful. When I was about 12, I woke up one morning with a killer headache and ear ringing. And after 3 days, it went away, and so did my hearing. Doctors did multiple examinations and an MRI, and they said it should be totally functional. It just isn't. 1 in a million case. For my 7th birthday, we went to Disneyland. They just happened to be having a car a day giveaway when we were there. For my 7th birthday, Mickey Mouse gave me a Pontiac Firebird. Do you still have the car? Nah, since I was only 7 at the time, the car went to my mom. By the time I was old enough to drive, it was scrap. I have a very rare skin disease that only 1 in a million people get. I've been told that I'll probably never meet another person in my lifetime with it. Haley disease for those interested. I have symmetric bilateral coloboma of the iris and retina. Essentially, my pupils are shaped like keyholes instead of circles. A single coloboma is pretty rare. Double coloboma is even more rare. And double symmetrical, well, you get it. I once guessed a 6-digit random combination on the first try. It was the only try I planned to give, as a kind of scratch pad whatever moment. Diagnosed with an extremely rare liver disease, primary hyperoxaluria. Some 300 people in the United States currently have it. Basically pass a lot of kidney stones and need a double transplant to fix. I was so freakishly allergic to ant and bee venom as a child that a single sting from a single little common black ant put me into anaphylactic shock. When my allergist was preparing to start immunotherapy for me, he found that the in-office lab equipment wasn't sensitive enough to measure the infinitesimally small amount of allergen with which to start my titration. So he had to send a sample of my blood to Johns Hopkins so that their lab could determine how much to give me. I did immunotherapy for several years to reach an immune response level at which I would be safe for me to basically exist in a non-frozen climate. Good news though, I'm good now. I've had a few run-ins with ants and wasps since my immunotherapy, and my body didn't freak out and shut down. And research indicates that if it hasn't done that after this long, I'm probably safe for maybe forever. I don't have EpiPens, and I'm not overly afraid of ants or bees. My ex was struck by lightning several times and lived. Died in a car accident though, so not as lucky as he claimed to be. I was on Tinder and was talking to this guy. He was supposed to meet me for dinner. I texted him and no answer. Then I texted him on Tinder. Said that he couldn't make it. However, I got a text back from the number. It wasn't the guy that I thought I texted. It was the actor Gerard Butler. I thought he was lying until he FaceTimed me. Nice guy. Had 2 11 centimeter 4 inches benign tumors growing in my spine, resulting in gradual paralysis from my chest down. They had no idea how the tumors formed. Surgery took 11 hours when they thought it would take 4 because the tumors were so complexly woven throughout my spine. I now had pretty much half a spine and chronic pain, but I take that over losing my life from paralysis and being unable to breathe. I have an unknown type of autosomal dominant centronuclear myopathy. My type of it is so rare that they haven't seen it before. Getting diagnosed was a multi-year struggle. They pretty much had to rule out everything else. It doesn't feel great to be in this club by myself. Countless blood draws, MRIs, CAT scans, and biopsy and genetic test. So far it looks like my father and I are the only ones with it. Yay! Got a rare but potentially deadly rash from a medication. I laughed when I first saw the bottle with the warning and said knowing my luck I'd get it. I did. Ended up in a burn unit with my skin sloughing off. not a fun week. Edit. Holy shit, big response. It's been amazing to hear how many people have similar stories and are taking meds with high risk. And for those wondering what med, it was Lamictal, lamotrigine for me. Not sure about the odds on this one, but I survived a non-survival plane crash. I was on an old PO2, famous for being very safe and uncrushable, on a tour of the desert in western China when I was like 7. My father's friend, who hosted me and piloted the plane, didn't survive, but somehow I got out with a concussion and apparently passed out for almost a day in the middle of the desert in the wreckage of the crash. 50 kilometers from the town airport on the edge of the desert. The people who found me were some tree planters. They plant greens in the desert to protect towns from sandstorms. A lot of people live in these desert towns in China do this. Found me on their way picking up a shipment, and the only reason they looked was because they were making a bet on how fast the egg would cook in the sand and went off the road to test. Edit. First thing first, according to legends, 15 minutes. I never tested it though, so according to my dad's, the theory that I might have lived was because the plane was mostly made out of fabrics and wood. So when the plane crashed, the front half collapsed and took the majority of the impact. Though I got knocked out, I was probably covered under the wreckage, and in the shades, it cooled me off enough to survive for a day or so. I'm allergic to the cold, like literally. I get intense hives, swelling, I pass out and throw up. Doesn't even have to be freezing, below 45 degrees without a jacket, and I can't do it. I have to carry an EpiPen with me in the event that I drink something too cold or have a severe reaction. I was actually homeless for 4 years, between 19 to 23 years old. As silly as it sounds, I used to earn some extra money at the time by helping around in a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. It was my biggest hobby when I was younger and was something I felt confident about. I also didn't have a passport or a bank account, so I couldn't get a normal job. Anyway, so at the time, I was stuck not earning enough money without a passport, a bank account, or a real job. In the UK, you won't get hired by 99% of companies if you don't have a passport to prove you have the right to work. So one day I got a phone call from a studio asking if I play Yu-Gi-Oh! And would consider myself a geek. Also, I wanted to be in a TV show. They said they would send me to another country as part of it. Being homeless, the biggest problems is being bored, so naturally I said yes, but told them I don't have a passport. No problem. We'll get you one straight away and pay for it ourselves. I ended up on a show called Geeks that you can still watch on channel 4 OD. Because I got this passport, I was finally able to get a job, a bank account, and finally a house. Now I'm looking after my 10-month-old daughter who's playing while I type this. So Yu-Gi-Oh saved me from being homeless. I might be an anime character. TLDR, was homeless until a TV company gave me a passport, allowing me to get a job and house because I played Yu-Gi-Oh! The first one, I don't know about the exact odds, but I was born on 7/7/77 and weighed 7 pounds and 7 ounces. Sadly though, I clocked in at 6:50 a.m. The other is that around the age of 14, I started to notice the outsides of both of my feet starting to get wider. After a couple of years of buying expensive custom-made shoes, they decided to perform surgery on my feet. Turned out I had extra muscle growth along with something else I don't recall at the moment. My podiatrist told me he submitted a scholarly article on it. May also have been genetic, as when my dad was 3, he developed an extra toe growing out of each one of his big toes. When I was a teenager, I had just started working at the local Sears Auto Center Express Lube shop, and on day 1 did a quick orientation and my first oil change. The manager walked away when he felt I was good to go, and the oil change went well. Fast forward a few days later, my manager asked me to come into his office, and he explained that the oil filter I had used had one huge flaw. I didn't know what that was, and it turned out the filter was pressed on backwards into the filter can, and it wouldn't allow oil to flow in, and it damaged the motor. They had to purchase a new motor for the person, and I still kept my job. He said it was a 1 in a million chance that would have happened, and it did on my first oil change. They have insurance for a reason. All sorts of weird stuff happened at our Walmart, defective tires, filters, oil, you name it. They don't hold the employees accountable for their weird stuff. I was diagnosed with leukemia. I got a bacteria growth which killed the leukemia. A real 1 in a million chance. This is my mom's story and I posted it before, but she once called her friend back in the day on the landline and another lady answered. My mom asks if her friend was there and the lady says, "Sure, I'll get her." My mom's friend hops on the phone and asks how she now was here. Turns out my mom got a number wrong when dialing. called a random house where someone was hosting a Tupperware party and my mom's friend just happened to be attending it. What are the odds of that? When I was a kid, I was chilling in the water of the Mediterranean Sea in Turkey. Suddenly, I felt an awful burning sensation on my stomach and my legs. I looked like I had been brutally sandpapered and got a 40 degrees Celsius, that's 104 degrees Fahrenheit fever. Turns out I made contact with a jellyfish and later found out that it hadn't happened on that beach for 10 years or so. I was just extremely unlucky. Aggressive fallopian tube cancer. 2 years later, I had a malignant pleural tumor. Also have late diagnosis of stage 2 and 3 urogenital reflux, which is usually discovered before a kid is out of diapers. I was too old for the surgeons to fix it properly. Also, I'm a redhead with blue eyes, hitchhiker thumb, double jointed and have double row of eyelashes. And my kid is a pretty close copy despite her bio dad having dominant genes, half Japanese. Not quite 1 in a million, but it sure felt like it. When I graduated high school, I was offered a full-ride scholarship entirely based on academic merit to study the program I loved more than anything at the school I dreamed of going to for years. The school in question was notorious for giving very few scholarships, and the particular scholarship I won is awarded to very few students each year. I'm still pinching myself sometimes. I was kidnapped when leaving work and held for 18 months along with 2 other girls. The guy who took us claimed himself to be an ineffable lower god and used cult tactics, manipulation, and control to have us be his family. I was allowed to leave to the grocery store as an errand, but knew if I didn't come back the others would receive my punishment. I finally got away by stabbing my captor when I believed he was going to kill me. There's a random bank pin later on becoming the last 4 of your zip code, which was later became the numerical address I worked at, which then happened to be a friend's birthday count. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and don't forget to watch our other videos.